Welcome to another episode of Planning Phase Syndicate. Thank you all so much for joining us for episode 98. Store Champ season has begun. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the Richmond Open and the Midwest Scrub Down number 2, because we just can't help it but talk about lists. Unfortunately, we have not gotten new points tonight, so we are not going to be able to discuss any points changes because they haven't told us what they are. Last week, I know we did our speculation in hopes that this week it would come out and we could do a bunch of list building, but unfortunately, we are not going to be able to do that. But we do have some amazing lists and some discussions, and we get to kind of go a little bit into the future about Store Champ season. Without further ado, let's bring in our guests for tonight. Please welcome me in welcoming Mr. Duncan Howard. How are you tonight, sir? Awesome. And joining me on the mic is JJ and Mr. Alex from the Best Spin Benchwarmers. How are you all tonight?
Doing okay. Had a great time this last weekend here at the Richmond Open. We had a blast playing over there, but we'll get into more details for that in a bit. Alex, how about you, man?
I'm doing okay. Happy that we're starting to record a podcast, although a little bit unhappy about the start time. I work in the morning, you know.
Yeah, man.
Well, joining us tonight is the champion of the Richmond Open, the one and only Duncan Howard, who eliminated JJ during Top Cut. So, Duncan, how does it feel to eliminate JJ? Probably pretty good, a little bit.
I mean, he got me in Swiss, so kind of the revenge of the Swiss there, and I haven't quite eliminated JJ before. Our team did it at Crate Cup, which he reminded me of. So,
so it's a pleasure to have you on, and thank you for joining us for our show tonight. Tonight we're going to be covering obviously the lists and kind of the records and talking a little bit about it, and maybe speculating on some future Store Championship. Before we get into it, though, just a quick reminder, we have a local Michigan Store Championship coming up May 28th in Ypsilanti, which is the stepchild of Ann Arbor, essentially.
A bastard child, really, but
so if you live in Michigan and you're not doing anything on that weekend, you are welcome to come out and hang out with us. I think I will be there pending my daughter's chemo results from the weekend before. As long as everything goes good, I should be there, because that's kind of what I told my wife for my birthday. Don't get me anything, just let me go play Store Championship. And then we were possibly going to have a Grand Rapids one June 3rd or June 10th. It'll be one of those 2 weekends for it. So maybe we get JJ to make the 10.5-hour drive each way and come hang out in Michigan.
Yeah, that'll be tough, especially if I'm trying to do the show down here around that time. So we'll see, Ben. We'll see.
Is it only 10 hours to Michigan from you? Jeez.
Yeah, I think it was like 9.5, because I looked at driving to come down to, what was the last tournament you all had down there, JJ?
It was Crate Cup.
Yeah. So I was debating on making the drive or flying, but it just didn't work out. It is, in fairness, 10 hours is not super fun in a car by yourself. So.
No, heck no. Mm-mm.
But all right, why don't we let's get into the Richmond Open. So obviously we have the championship, the duels here, and we have Duncan taking on JJ. Duncan, I guess to begin with, why don't we talk a little bit about your list before we get into some of the stats? And then we'll let JJ talk about his list, and we can kind of talk a little bit about some of the runs to get there. I believe you all had 27 to 30 people there.
It was 25. We were supposed to have 26, but one of them got sick, so we ended up having one dude get a bye each round. And everyone with 2 wins, 6 tournament points or more progressed on to day 2, which was 17 people, with 1 not able to make it. So it looked like a top 16, and then top 4 cut at the end.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about your list. I know you have a somewhat similar list to what JJ had, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So after Worlds, I was a little burnt out. I wanted to go back to flying what I like. So I picked up Soontir Fell again with Predator, Crack, and Shield upgrade. Pretty standard loadout for him. I'm kind of wish he had another mod slot, but well, let's hope. Darth Vader, but 7-point Darth Vader with Brilliant Evasion, Elusive, Fire Control, Pattern Analyzer, and Afterburners. Captain Farrell with 7 Sister. Everyone knows and loves that one. And Moff Gideon with Cloaking, Elusive, and Contraband Cybernetics. Very similar to Ali Paknell's Worlds list, where he took 6-point Vader and upgraded Farroff to a Vermeil. I felt that was going to be a little like Vermeil was just going to get lit up, a little frail there. Although Palp is nice, so I decided to swap to Farroff and use that extra point to upgrade my my Vader.
And that's the Vader I prefer flying. That's the Vader that I feel dies less, is in my opinion. At least currently, he dies less than Boy Vader, but it is one more point. So,
well, yeah, that elusive pattern analyzer really helps out a lot with just survivability, like more so than just having one extra shield.
Yeah, I had a very in-depth discussion with Ali about why he didn't go that route, and he thought that Boy Vader had a lot more firepower, which he does. But if he gets focused down, I think the staying power of this Vader at 7 points means he will output probably equivalent or more damage by staying around for more turns than Boy Vader will, depending on the matchup.
And you don't gimp yourself if you do a red maneuver like that, too.
Exactly.
It helps out a lot.
Or get jammed, right?
Now, definitely one of the most interesting things that I noticed when we were playing was definitely your Moff Gideon setup there with Elusive, Contraband, Cybernetics, and Cloaking Device. The majority of Moff Gideons I've seen usually are with like false transponder codes and targeting computer. What was your reasoning for that particular loadout on Moff?
At Worlds, I was running Moff Gideon with Notorious and Cloaking. Just Notorious was a great upgrade, right? Like never ever shoot at Moff Gideon, please. I found I wasn't really pointing him at things very often. Yes. All right.
Hi.
Good night. Anyway. Yeah, so I had Notorious and Cloaking, and I just found out Gideon was dying very quickly. So I decided to go with Elusive and the other 3 points. I tested overtuned modulators for a little bit, and what I found when people were just on the turn that I popped overtuned would ignore Moff Gideon, and then you'd get a bunch of strain, and then they'd keep shooting at him afterward, which was bad. Anyway, so I swapped to a Contraband for that turn that you want to recharge Elusive, but still have a focus token to be cloaked.
Yeah, awesome. And I think I like the Cloaking Device on Gideon. I was at Worlds too. I ran into one, and that Gideon just would not die. I took 2 shots into him and then gave up and said, "Screw it! I'd rather just shoot Vader," which ended up killing Vader. Right. So then obviously it was worth more to be able to kill Vader, but it was just that Moff Gideon. And I learned something. If nobody else knows this, if Moff Gideon does his ability, Reinforced no longer works at all. I learned that the hard way.
Great. But you can still crack shot them, so it's like it's fantastic.
You also can't juke it for people.
Yeah,
who
you
realize
can't
that
juke
either.
Yeah, so that was an interesting thing with Vader. Is like, well, do I want to juke them? Do I want them to spend the focus token, or do I want them to not spend the focus token? Stuff like that at Worlds. But that was way back in Worlds.
Feels like yesterday sometimes.
That's last played.
Wow. So in your run, your record was 5-1. Did you feel on any of the scenarios that you had a little harder time with any one particular scenario more than others, like scramble or assault or anything?
Let me see if I can bring up. I took a picture of my matches. It wasn't that anything was particularly hard. I thought it was a very balanced list in terms of all the scenarios. I think I played Assault in the Satellite Array versus a lot of medium bases. Yeah, Yeah, I played Assault versus Anakin and 3 Arc 170s in my 5th round. So that was a rough one. But other than that, I think the list fairly balances out. Crates is obviously not everyone's greatest scenario, but Faroff can carry one pretty well. And you're not super gimped if you take one with Moff Gideon, right? He doesn't get to cloak, but he does have elusive and 3 agility, so it's something. And if they're shooting them, they're not shooting your aces. And as JJ knows, in our last game, Vader carried a crate pretty well to the end of the game.
Yeah, he did.
How many times did you use Moff Gideon's ability on Soontir, who wasn't getting shot at?
Quite a bit, actually. It was kind of nice. In my 6th round, I played against a bunch of FO ties and Kylo silencer. Just kept putting Soontir right next to Kylo and then using Vader to just sink in a bunch of damage. But you strain a stressed Soontir and just do a blue next turn. It's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually miss Soontir. I really wish, I really hope they do something for Soontir, because it'd be nice to be able to play Soontir again. And can you imagine him going down to 5 points or something crazy like that? Like, I don't know. I always feel in Empire they've Second Sister is really good for the 5 points, but she's an I4, and I just kind of miss that I6 Soontir that I used to get to play all the time.
Yeah. I think a little more loadout and staying at 6 wouldn't be the worst thing, but he needs a second mod slot for sure.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice, because you always want to put that shield upgrade, but then you're like, I don't have any other.
I want a targeting computer at minimum. Come on.
And it would be nice if I had both those. Does Second Sister get both that? I don't think she does. I think
she gets
just the one.
Second Sister.
She only has one mod.
She has one mod, but yeah.
But she has a missile slot,
which is useless, in my opinion.
Ah,
I like Juke and shield upgrade on her.
That's obviously one of the better ways to go, or like extreme maneuvers.
Yeah.
I really like just throwing an all crit procket sometimes.
I was gonna say prockets though.
All right, that's fair. That is fair. I will say that's pretty dope right there too. So, do we get to say? I mean, so I guess we at first when JJ told me you were coming on and you won over him, I kind of was sitting there thinking, oh, it's because you're taller. That's like the unrunning joke. JJ is pretty short, if we're being honest. But then JJ's like, no, I think you missed it, Tanner. I already beat him once, and I was like, oh, so we can officially here on Planning Phase debunk the taller person always wins theory. So the one of the questions I have, Duncan, for you per se, right, is when you did face JJ that first time, was it a list you had practice against or seen before? I know Boy Vader is, obviously common practice, but JJ flies his Mauler and Vader typically together, and maybe he didn't this time, but that's a big thing of JJ's, and not a lot of people, like, you see that and you don't think about it, and then he uses Vizier completely different than most people do. JJ does not care about Vizier one bit and uses it as a blocker as much as he can.
I don't think our first game had any influence on our second game, if that's what you're asking. But we did play a different scenario. It was Scramble in our Swiss game versus Salvage in our final game. And I think he has a little more ability to do well at Scramble, but it does vary a little bit because he's got 2 more I5s while I have the I6s, but the I6s do need their actions to do other stuff. I wasn't expecting him to, rush in on our first engage on our first game, but second game he slow rolled a little bit, allowing me to get a little better of a position with my 2 aces. So.
And I will say that is JJ's signature move, is to rush in, especially if he's not played an opponent with that list before. That is one of his favorite things to do. And sometimes it works, and other times he gets slaughtered.
I was okay. Yeah. I was okay with it on our first game, just because I was second player for that turn, so his Vader wasn't even able to get a target lock. So it was a range 3 from Juno, a range 3 from Mauler, and a range 3 from his Vader. So I was like, okay, so there's only what's it called? 7 dice coming in, and I got 12 defense with elusive, brilliant, all my force, everything, and I still took 2 shields, and I was like, oh, man, this is real bad. Our second game, Vader took no damage until the last turn, so quite a difference there in Vader's willingness to survive.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We should probably talk about JJ's list instead of just listing up some people, right?
Yeah,
Nate?
talking about it.
So my list here is the other Empire list here for Richmond Open. So for this one here, I went with a 5-ship build. I have Battle Yavin Vader, Battle Yavin Mauler, Juno Eclipse, and the TIE X1 with elusive fire control system, cluster missiles, Iden Versio, the standard loadout that you see her with, which is elusive and ion cannon, and then I went with Vizier with Seven Sister and Captain Hark. I went specifically for that loadout for Vizier because I wanted Vizier to be that coordinating piece when he needs to be, and then that jamming piece when I need him to be. I actually used his ability quite well in this tournament against a couple of lists where I was able to get Vizier in position where I could get him either into a range 2 bullseye or range 1 of an enemy, set up a jam, especially if it's like a cluster of enemies, and then when they moved in and they bumped, if they took that red focus, then Vizier can use Seven Sister to either apply a second jam or rather jam that particular ship, or apply a tractor and then set up the follow-up shots for Mauler and Vader, which are usually close to that particular point of impact there. The third round where I faced off against a first order list, I actually did that. I ran Vizier right into a ball of TIE foes, and I was able to tractor Malorus, and I was able to eliminate Malorus within those first 2 shots because a tractored Malorus doesn't last very long when you have regular crits coming in really good there. For Juno, kind of on the fence on how I really wanted to load her out. I definitely wanted elusive on her, just to keep her alive, especially if she's taking target locks regularly. And then the rest of it, I wasn't sure. I played around with Pattern Analyzer a lot, and I also considered prime thrusters on Juno as well, but they just didn't work out for how I wanted to play this particular list. So I ended up going up with cluster missiles and fire control system. And oddly enough, every time that I would test out this version of Juno, I would hardly ever get the cluster missiles out. But in this tournament, I think I ran out of cluster missiles twice in like 2 separate games, which is hilarious to me because I was able to get multiple shots with Juno, and it worked out really well.
I was going to ask about those cluster missiles because typically you would see maybe passive sensors on her, so you could do like the boost after you do that lock. So you can still do like passive sensors elusive. I was curious about how well those cluster missiles worked out.
Yeah, definitely. Passive sensors was definitely one of the ones that I considered as well. It's just for what I had Juno's role. Juno was a flanker for me, 1, and then an objective grabber 2nd. So a lot of times, especially when I'm playing like Scramble or when I'm playing Salvage, the passive sensors like boost everything usually doesn't work out for me unless I really want to get that target lock at a later initiative. But if I'm in a scenario where I really have to press my advantage in numbers, Juno automatically goes into that objective mode and really pushes for claiming those objectives, which passive sensors doesn't really help me out much in that particular case there. So because of that, I kind of shied away from that particular style for Juno, and I ended up going with the more offensive output, which really helps me for that initial alpha strike. And then if I still have the opportunity to still engage more enemies using the clusters, then I will. But if not, Iden and Juno tend to be my objective grabbers, while Mauler and Vader are usually my hammer for lists when I really need to take out a particular target.
That makes sense.
All right. Well, why don't we go, before we go too far into more lists, why don't we go through some of the statistics, right? So now, so everybody remembers these statistics for this, if you watch this in the future, is before we have what I would call store champ season points change. So I think, to some extent, if you played at Worlds, you were able to see most of what you probably will see is similar to what we saw at Worlds, except for with a few tweaks. Other than there's a list with Sunfuck in it, and I don't remember a Sunfuck doing super well at Worlds over top 50. I don't think so, but maybe. But if we look at distribution, we obviously Empire is on top. The one thing I would be very questioning of it is that FO is only had 2 lists. That just seemed crazy to me that people weren't bringing FO list. But
and same with Scum. Scum was just one list, right? That made it
2.
Oh, there was 2. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
And
same as FO.
Yeah, so like that's the Scum piece is not as surprising as the FO is, but Republic is Republic being able to come in a little bit more seems actually it's Rebel. Sorry. Rebel coming in at 6 lists seems pretty crazy to me. People, does your area just love Rebel lists?
They do.
What it is?
They do. Yeah, the Nova area definitely loves its Rebels. That's been a thing for a lot, like ever since I started playing this game. Everything's here has been pretty Rebel heavy. I think FO, especially around here, is just one of those factions. Like obviously, Scum not a good faction right now. FO is just kind of like a stepchild faction. No one seems to care about it. But I think people weren't treating this as a must-win, try hard at all costs kind of event.
Yeah, especially like the 2 FO lists that were brought aren't like the ones from Worlds. It's like one of them, I believe, was 5 ties and a Whisper, and the other one was 3 ties, a Whisper, and a Silencer Kylo.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the 5 FO ties with a 5-point ship did okay at Las Vegas Open. The other guy was like, I didn't really like flying all those 3-point ties, so he put in Kylo Silencer,
which I can respect. God knows I played enough of those damn things.
Yeah. Now, definitely one of the bigger surprises for me, and even though we already saw it during Worlds, Rebels actually making that surprise cut there, was the other player that won 5 and 1 tie was a Rebel list as well, and it was 4 U-Wings, which we'll break down that list there. Like when I saw that list, and Chris, because I was like play testing this out for a while for the Nickel City League. Like at first I was like doubting the viability of it and whatever, but when I saw his list and the way he played it, I was like, holy crap, that is a beefy list. And man, did he do really well. He was actually the person that I tied with in round number 5 during the Swiss. And I gotta admit, like he had my number and I just managed to steal the tie from that matchup. But
you guys were playing Assault too, which was not a great one for you to play Assault on.
Yeah.
But that was actually his first tournament.
No way,
really?
For real?
Yeah.
No way. I had no idea.
Yeah,
he
first
was
tournament.
A pro, man. Yeah,
he was good.
How was your game against him, Duncan?
We played Scramble. I scored 15 objective points, so I just kept hitting those buttons and arc dodging. I only killed 1 U-Wing to end up winning the game. So I just approached from 2 different angles, right? So like I had Moff Gideon coming up the middle to hit the middle button, Faroff sweeping around the side, and then just Vader and Soontir here, right? Like, I mean, yeah, they can turn around and do whatever they want, but if you approach them from 3 or more separate angles, then I mean they can't get focused fire on anything.
Yeah, being that I6 I think gives you a little bit of an advantage there with with that piece of it. So
especially with the button hitting, right? Because like Soontir could just hit button, reposition, get a focus, or be coordinated something, and then hit the button for his regular action. I mean, Vader does a really good job. Moves, afterburners, hit button, and then target lock focus, stuff like that.
Yeah, and with your Vader, you can do the pattern analyzer and hit that button, right?
No, you can't. It's
okay.
Before your perform action step. So that's a big thing, and you can't. And it has to be your first action of your perform action step. So the pattern analyzer is before your perform action step, and then it has to. The scenario action at all times has to be in your perform action, so you can't barrel roll closer to it and then Vader action to hit it, even though you are in your kind of perform action step.
Fair enough.
So that was the downside of that Vader, but just get close enough on the first try.
Yeah.
Or afterburners.
True.
So Rebel actually still had a pretty good record for a win rate record.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. I did throw the top 8 in here versus the top 4. I know you guys only did a top 4, but I threw the top 8 in here just to kind of look at a little bit of the difference. So Galactic Republic comes in pretty heavy, but with there only being 2 Empire lists, I don't know. It kind of evens out a little bit based on the win ratio piece of this. So, but if you look at the top 8, in which is what we would typically do in a larger tournament, Empire handily comes on top for most of it. Everybody else kind of seems limited, minus Scum and FO. And again, we always, when you look at the statistics, you kind of just go, well, it is a 25-person tournament, right? You know, so you have to take some of these numbers not so hard, I guess. But we do say if you take all factions and look at the pilot count, between you and JJ and everyone else, Moff Gideon has usurped Aiden's place at the top here as the most run tie. Obviously, Boy Vader is next. And I think that number would be higher if we just looked at Standard and Boy Vader together. Juno had 3 showings, though. 3 showings.
Yeah, there were 2 locals of mine that copied my worlds list, the Juno, Vader Defender, Moff Gideon, Fair-Off list. They wanted to try that.
Yeah, which I think that's a good list too. So not surprised, to see that. I think a lot of people were sleeping on Juno because Juno can just pop, but at the same token, for 4 points, Juno really can hit hard. Like,
I mean,
really,
also
really.
like doing scramble boost or something like that, is pretty good. Or just anything passive sensors is a really good upgrade on her.
Yeah. So I really like that. Kraken is up there. Fair-Off is obviously up there. And then we see Wolf, which I bet you Alex will complain about because he'd rather see Jag up there over Wolf. And I don't know. I want to know, somebody needs to look up that Fearsome Predator list. Did they just run 3 of those? Is that why?
Yeah, he ran 3 in Django. He was my round 1 opponent.
Okay. Which is hilarious that he ran 3 of them instead of the 2 Afflex and Volan, which is what I can't remember his name. He's from the UK, Liam. That's what Liam had been running, and I had tested that out actually for Worlds too because I really like Tri-Fighters. I just find it tilts me when you have 4 ships and you lose 2 of them in a couple of turns. You just when your dice don't hold up, you just start. I mean, last night I ran 3 Tri-Fighters, and I literally had a Tri-Fighter with 2 calculates and an evade. And I threw 5 green dice and rolled 1 eyeball. And they had
that's rough.
2 hits and a crit, and the crit was a direct hit, and I lost them. It's like fuck you. Doesn't matter what you do. So that's interesting. The Fearsome Predators are interesting, but I just don't feel they're worth their weight. So upgrade wise, we have Elusive here. Shield upgrade, obviously really popular. I don't think that's going anywhere. Marksmanship, and I don't know if that's just because of
it's 1 point, baby.
Yeah, the 1 point, or if it's because it's built into some of these cards.
Yeah.
VTG. How many? Oh, that's right. Those arcs have VTG.
All the Siege of Coruscant arcs have veteran turret. Yeah.
So that's why that one's up there too. Predator, not a surprise. Crackshot, not a surprise. Heroic, obviously, not a surprise. I guess none of these upgrades are really a big surprise in terms of that. So obviously, then we get into the rounds. Duncan took Psych off the board, 23-11. And then looking back, it looks like you beat, I don't know who it is, this SKWI.
Kevin, right?
Yeah, that was Kevin. He was the 4 U-Wing player.
Okay. And then Aaron was the other one that's like 1-2. Who wants to take some of these lists? Why don't we go through the other top 4 lists? And I do want to get to the CIS list as well, because I think that's a pretty unique list.
So I'll take on the Republic list since I took that on in the top 4. So he's running Anakin Skywalker in the Delta 7B with Crackshot, R4P17, and Shield upgrade. We have 3 Siege of Coruscants, Arc 170s, Oddball, Wolf, and Jag to round out that list there. I actually played him 2 times in the tournament. He was my round 1 opponent, and then I met him again in the top 4 there to face off there. This is a ton of beef. This list here, the way he ran it, he had Wolf and Jag next to each other, and then Oddball to come in either from the flank or from the rear behind him. Oddball just having that selfless to help redirect those crits away from Wolf and Jag to absorb those shields. Oddball having an extra shield as well, more than Wolf and Jag, really helps spread out that damage a lot, especially when, like my list in particular, Vader just automatically deals out a crit. It really makes these arcs stay on the board a lot faster. And then Oddball's ability, after performing a red action, allowing another ship to acquire a lock on an enemy that's in range right there, really helps set up either himself for a good shot, and then possibly Wolf as well if you don't spend that lock, and then Jag can acquire a lock after they perform an attack. So you're constantly getting a lot of offensive mods there. It also does extend out to Anakin if Anakin happens to be in the area, and it's just a lot of offensive output for this list. So it's very good.
Yeah, I was going to ask if he took the lock for Oddball himself after
Yes.
the roll, or if he would give it to Jag or something so Wolf could use it. But I guess Oddball also does that, eh?
Mhm.
That's fair. I love Oddball arc.
Yeah, being able to do that on the red focus on a bump was news to me recently.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Oddball on the Y-Wing, and I would do a lot of bumping with that, and then had sync council stuff. So that was always a nice thing to pull on an opponent when they didn't realize that happens.
Alex just likes to play dirty. Good old Oddball.
Yeah, he's the dirtiest player in the game. Oddball.
He has to be the most overpriced ship in Republic, hands down. So kudos to this guy bringing Oddball and that Oddball arc at 5 points there. All right, the next list that we have was the Rebel list. Duncan, do you want to take that list just since that was your top 4 opponent?
Alrighty, so we got 4 U-Wings here, all with pivot wings. So we start with Magva Yarrow with the Child and Ursa Wren. That's a combo on its own. So basically, whenever you shoot at that one with your people that have the Merciless Pursuit, you'll get a target lock, which is great if you want, but then she'll get a target lock on you, which is bad. And you can't reroll more than 1 die attacking anyone at range 0 to 2. You get Cassian Andor. Beginning of activation will strip off stress off a friendly ship, not including himself. Fire control, elusive, perceptive, right? Just tokens and elusive. You got Benthic 2 tubes with perceptive and Jin, so that's a big target right there. Also has elusive. So basically, any of these ships that whenever they take a focus token can make it an evade token instead. Benthic, when he does his double focus action, can pass a focus or make it an evade to somebody else. And then you got Saw Gerrera with Pivot Wing, Leia Organa, K2SO, Contraband Cybernetics, and Elusive. So basically, with this list, you can Leia stop and rotate if you want. But if you don't rotate, then that's fine. And that'll be white. You get all your actions. Beginning of the beginning in the system phase, you K2SO, calculate to somebody, remove it with Gassian. And then next turn, you can contraband stop with Saw, and then you can rotate everybody. You can do whatever you want, basically. It's kind of the way this works. Yeah, that's about it. They just get tons of tokens and rotate everywhere, so it's kind of hard to get them. And they actually do have reliably good offense with single tokens or sometimes double mods when it comes to Ursa Wren giving target locks, coordinating a target lock to Cassian. He has fire control, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think
Saw for when they get damaged too.
And Saw, right. So that's why I stopped attacking Saw after he stopped becoming a good target of opportunity for me.
Well, I think the Magma is. I mean, we saw that a year ago at Adepticon. Kind of make an appearance when we first went to 2.5 or whatever we want to call it, right? Mm-hmm. And I know they kind of changed Ursa Wren, but I still think that the Child in Ursa Wren is just such a good. If you want to shoot Magva, because you want to get Magva off the table, right? Because you want to be able to re-roll more than 1 dice for the most part. But oh man, I don't know. We played around with this list on the show, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or something like that. I like this list. I don't own 4 U-Wings, so I don't think I could ever table this list. I don't know anybody that actually owns 4 of them in my local group. So,
But you know a lot of people that own 2, and you should own 2.
Yeah, right. So Duncan, when you played against this list and you saw this, like the way he set up, did you have a target in mind for one of these U-Wings that you wanted to take off the board immediately? Like if you were to attack it directly?
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so I started doing damage to Saul just because it was the best target of opportunity, and Leia is pretty good. But I think the main target should be Cassian because he's enabling a lot of what's going on. Like he can enable infinite stops on a U-Wing, which is not great, right? Like if you're trying to plan a maneuver with an ace and your opponent can do anything from a stop to like a 2 hard or a 3 bank, right? That's not, or a 4 straight. That's not really easy to plan for. So I wanted to get most of his stopping capability out of the way. But I think Benthic 2 tubes is probably the main target you should go for because handing out evades is the hardest thing to deal with. But I also looked at the fact that I had Moff Gideon and I was like, well, those evades don't really matter. So I can kind of go for whoever he presents to me. So I started going for Saw just because I had a really good opportunity on him first turn. And then after that, swap to Cassian because I had better follow-up shots on him.
Nice.
Was there a lot
like
of
I said,
times?
I only killed 1 U-Wing in our game.
I was just wondering if there's a lot of times where they just rolled up with a K2SO calculate and an evade token.
In my game, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for me, like I had to take advantage of the terrain. When I was playing him in my round number 5, we were playing Assault at a Satellite Array, and essentially I set up the board to have a tighter string of obstacles in the way, so that way I could funnel his U-Wings in, and essentially just used my ships to kind of keep him bottled up away from the objectives, and that was the only way I was able to keep up with the amount of damage that he was putting out. But yeah, Cassian enabling those stops definitely is tough when you're trying to corral the U-Wings in the corner. So,
all right, and I think the last list, to look at here, I guess I'm going to give Miguel some kudos because he's running Sunfac and there's no Grievous. So not only is there not a Grievous, there's a Sunfac in the list, and I don't know. Like, to me, kudos to that guy for them for running that. So who wants to take the CIS list?
Oh, I will. I love Sunfac. He had Ensnare, Elusive, Lone Wolf, Targeted Computer. Dirge with HLC Ion Cannon in the title. Volan Das with Just Outmaneuver. It's all 12 of his points. Then SOC Dooku. And this list just looks like it murders things really fast, and hopefully it can do that before objectives are scored a lot. I mean, you do have Dooku for something like Assault, and you can do like a Sunfac, like 5 straight, and then track yourself forward to get closer to objectives for like a scramble or something. But it seems much more like a murder list than it does an objective list.
Did either of you end up playing this gentleman?
Yeah, I did. He was my round number 4. No, actually, I'm sorry, my round number 3. Right before I played Duncan the first time, we were playing Chance Engagement, and it was definitely interesting way he set up. He had split up his Sunfac and Count Dooku on one side, and then Dirge in the center, and Volan Das on the other end, essentially playing Volan like a Grievous, essentially, right? You got to make a choice where you wanted to go, and I was able to keep Dooku and Sunfac busy away while I had the rest of my list engage Dirge and Volan Das. I got lucky with the dice there. I was able to eliminate those 2 and then focus my attention on Dooku, who was caught out of position to really get good follow-up shots. And then Sunfac fell after that. But it is definitely a hard list to really work against if you're not prepared for that particular setup.
Well, all right. Do either of you have anything you wanted to comment further about the Richmond Open before we move on to the Midwest Open?
I mean, I would just like to hype up that it was a good time, and hopefully we get more people next year. I mean, this was only the second year, and we went from having like 9 to 25. Not obviously a huge jump, but we'd like to see more people because that gives us more prize support for next time. And I mean, it was nice to find out, that it was going to be worth a store championship kit and a world's invite. So hopefully, if we keep that up, we can do that. And also, I mean, JJ can attest that Richmond has really good food.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you guys come down, then I'll give you all the hot spots.
So what food did you have, JJ? That was
Moore Street Cafe was the place I went to for breakfast on Sunday, and I got to tell you, those pancakes, really good. Awesome pancakes.
Yeah.
That's good. I don't think I've ever actually been to Richmond up that area. I don't know. You'd think I would because I live in frickin' Michigan, but
if you do, hit me up.
I will. Yeah. Depending on all the stuff that goes on in my personal life, I actually was looking at Nova this year because to me, Nova seems kind of like a fun time. Everybody that has been seems to think it's pretty fun, and it's easy to get in. Like if I want to fly, so it's a pretty easy jaunt to get in there.
We also trying to make it a thing where we do a different Smithsonian museum every year. Last year we did the Udvar-Hazy Center, which is the Air and Space Museum out near Dulles Airport, where they have the SR-71 Blackbird, the Enola Gay, the Space Shuttle. The SR-71.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome. Cool. And they had a Top Gun exhibit too because it had come out that past summer. So it was a good time. I don't know what museum we'll do this year, but you could spend a whole day in one and still not get anything done. Still not get it all done.
Well, and that's here. I'll be 40 this year, and the funny thing was when I was a child, my father always liked going to those museums and things like that. My mom hated it because my father would literally stand and read every exhibit all the way through, so she gets stuck with all of us kids. Now I'm approaching 40, and I feel the same way. Like when we go, I wander away from the wife and the kids and just kind of like read everything at my pace, and then like eventually they come find me and they're like, are you this slow? Like what the hell's going on? It's like, I don't know, I paid like $20-$30. I want to read all this shit. Like,
the Smithsonian's free, it's great.
Yeah, so it's like, but for me it's just I really want to be able to read all the stuff, and like that's just like, I don't know, I'd hate saying I'm turning into my father because my father would never play this type of a game, but we did used to play chess a lot when I was a kid, so maybe that's why I like X-Wing quite a bit, is because of the amount of chess we played. And cribbage. My father loved cribbage for whatever reason. But yeah, so I would love to come down for Nova. I don't think I'm going to make Gen Con this year because Gen Con always falls around my wife's birthday. Literally, almost every year it's like on my wife's birthday somehow, except for last year when we went and it was not.
So the only other thing I want to say is, big thank you to Chris Allen and everybody that helped organize Richmond Open. You guys were great at putting out that event out there. Hopefully next year we can get a stream up for that as well, so that way we can bring all the X-Wing goodness to everybody live over there, and that we get to see more X-Wing on your weekends.
Yeah, that would be fun. And I would say if you went from 9 to 25, that's pretty good. Don't down that, man. That's pretty good turnout value there. So, and yeah. I don't know who wants to sell me or give me their Soontier card, but I heard
I have an
guards.
extra.
All right. Well, we should talk after this.
I need to find some predators.
I do like me some Soontier, and I do like that Soontier alt art actually. So
yeah. The old 1.0 flashback.
Oh yes.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I kind of want it just to drive Charles nuts because Charles hates Soontier so much.
Yeah, for real.
All right, let's move on to the Midwest Scrub Down. And if this event was an extended event, this is the second one, and I believe this is in Iowa, right? I think this is Iowa.
Yeah.
It's like on the tip of Iowa. But this is the Midwest Scrub Down 2. It was an extended event. There was some people that didn't submit lists, so it skews the numbers a little bit. But as you can see here, Empire and Rebel clearly took the lead in terms of list building for extended. I don't think that's a big surprise because E-Wings are a lot of people's loves, as well as getting that Lambda on the table. Hype. I don't think I saw Guri on the table, though, which I'm very surprised at. And if I had gone, I would have ran Guri no matter what. Even if I would have lost, I would have ran Guri. So
You got to run the alt art that has 3 extra shields.
There you go.
Yeah.
I do have that, and or some version of that, but I don't think I'd get away with running that. So
No.
Yeah, Curry's just 7 points. That's really hard to build around in Scum when you can take a lot of other ships at 7 points.
Yeah, but
Fair
none of
enough.
them can bendy barrel roll. I mean, come on.
I love Star Vipers. I wouldn't take Guri to this tournament.
oh,
Dallin
sadly.
Overos or Prince Shizor or something.
I don't know. When we were at Gen Con, I got all that Guri stuff. So, for coming in top in faction on my day. So I feel like I would have to run that. So, though, if anybody ever wants to trade the Guri stuff for Grand Inquisitor stuff, let me know. I've never used the Guri stuff, and I like Grand Inquisitor better. All right. So the interesting thing that I see here out of all of these numbers is First Order had a higher win rate. They didn't play as many games as Empire, but they did actually have a higher win rate out of all the other factions. And I think we'll see in a few minutes if anybody ran Tafson, because that would be, I think that's what the only extended ship in First Order. I think so.
Yep.
And I don't think I remember seeing a Tafson. So we look at cut rate here. Scum obviously did a lot better. Your average squad size was between 4 and 5. Looking at pilots, clearly the top pilot again is Boy Vader. I know Duncan earlier you said Boy Vader probably doesn't need to change points, but everybody runs him over everything else.
Not me.
Except for you. You're right. But you're a special case. It's
And
because
he
you're
won.
tall. And you won.
Over a
That
Boy
is true.
Vader.
Over Boy Vader. That is true. But they have Boy Vader's on top. Then we have Lieutenant Sai. Not a surprise. That's just clearly not a surprise. I think out of all those ships, Lieutenant Sai is probably the most effective one for the points. Well, we can debate that in a minute if we want. I threw a few more ships in here. Malorus is obviously up there. Scorch and DT, nothing surprising there. Contrail, Garvin up there as well. Dutch, not surprising in this meta. And really kind of anything else just seems basic. I think Sai is the big one out of all of those. I think that's the only extended ship there anyway.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised.
Then we look at upgrades. A Elusive comes out on top again. I wouldn't be surprised if they decide they're going to do something to Elusive, just because everybody seems to want to pay the points to run it. Fire control system is very nice to see up there as well. Marksmanship, shield upgrade, munitions failsafe, and Magpulse warheads, along with APTs. So the question is, who do you think ran APTs? A lot of them, because we haven't seen APTs up on top per se.
I heard there was a gunboat that ran advanced proton torpedoes a lot.
Yeah, and the Battle Yemen X-Wings as well.
Nice to see APTs kind of make a comeback. I like that. I like that it's the one charge type thing. Though I will say JJ ruined it on Major Vendor for me, and I despise it because of that stupid interaction. I cannot stand that you can 1 or 2 forward, recharge your APT, and then just continue to go forward with it. So.
Yeah, actually, my buddy was in this tournament because he lives pretty close there locally. But he didn't do well. He went like 0-3 to start. So, but he flew Lieutenant Sai.
Did he?
Yeah. I don't know why he brought a list that we weren't planning on having him bring, but
Well, I think the nice thing about this tournament is because it's extended. So it kind of reminds me of the Michigan GT, but we didn't see a lot of Lieutenant Sais there, right? I kept trying to convince Ken to tell his kid to run Lambda instead of that stupid Gauntlet in Empire for the points. Like, to me, it's a better buy, but His kid loves the that gauntlet there. All right, so let's get into some of the cut. So Scott from Nickel City X-Wing took everybody down. And this does kind of go a little bit against some of the discussion that the crates have been having about your seating place versus where you end up. Our top cut here was, I don't know who L Bell is, but L Bell versus Scott, which was the 11th and 16th seed. So pretty good. Scott handily took it with his Republic list and won the whole tournament. We'll get to his list in just a second here. And then you could kind of see it was Scott and L Bell versus is that K Nasty? Is that how you say that? Nasty? I don't know how to say that. And Doug's Zug. Snaggletooth, that's Joel, right? From Michigan. Yes, I think he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think he's in our Michigan group. You know who he is? I think he's in our
I've seen him
Michigan
around,
group.
man. I don't know.
All right. So yeah, so those are kind of the top cuts for that. Here is where the seedings was originally. As you can see, there's a couple of Tommy Adams was there. I don't know where Tommy actually lives, to be honest with you. Does Tommy live around there?
I forgot where he lives.
Okay.
I've only spoken to him a couple times.
So then we have Smittle, and I know Smittle, Stumbo was there, it looks like, and Velvet
Kentucky,
Buddha
sorry.
as well. What's that?
I think Tommy's Kentucky.
Is he? He's
Yeah.
kind of around there. Kentucky's it can't be that far from Iowa, is it? I don't think it is.
Geography class.
I don't know.
It's the Midwest.
I'm
the
an
same.
analyst. I don't.
There's a whole state in
It's-
between.
Yeah. It's anywhere between 12 to 6 hours, anywhere around there.
All right. You're all killing me here. All right. So why don't we go through? So I have the list. I got to talk to that guy from Pattern Analyzer to see if we could change up how he orders those lists or give us an option to. So I know he listens to the show on and off. I think we'll come back to a couple of these lists. The top list obviously was Scott's right here. Duncan, you want to take the Republic list that took the win?
Oh, he was number 16 seed. I was
Yeah.
trying to find out where he was.
Sorry.
All right, so here we got Anakin Skywalker with trick shot, heavy laser. So this has got to be the Ada, right?
Yep.
Yes.
R7A7 the shield upgrade. Guess you're just going to fire 5-die heavy laser cannon shots. That's customizable click and contrail. Contrail with crack shot, chopper, Besh. Click with R3 astromech proton bombs. It's pretty good. And he's got 2 Siege of Coruscant arcs, the 2 4-pointers. Just seems like a lot of firepower, and try to keep Anakin alive while he flanks, because you're not really going to want to joust some arcs here.
No, and I guess because if we go back to, was it Gen Con, you had the 4-ship Republic list, if I remember right. That saw some popularity after that. And then we had Siege of Coruscant come out. And so the question is it better to have the lat rerolls, or is this beefy style list more fitting to kind of where the meta is right now?
I think it's 6 1/2 dozen. I would say personally, for my flavor, that I like the lat list a little better. It did okay at Worlds. Obviously, these guys are really efficient in points, but they can get taken off the board pretty easily with that 1 agility. The key to my lat surviving at Gen Con was the C3PO Corky Kryze thing going on. So we don't have that anymore.
Nope. Unfortunately, not that.
Just a general wondering about this event. I'm seeing very, very little amounts of dash here.
Yeah,
Is he allowed?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he allowed?
Yeah.
Like the list, the dash Kyle Hera list was always pretty good.
Wow. Yeah, you're totally right. I completely forgot about that list.
I
Yeah.
was like, guys, dash exists. Come on. He's a good way to punch Defender Vader.
Yeah, I don't
He
know.
doesn't have a gunner slot anymore. I'm not sure if that affects anything.
All right, going to Yasby.
I mean,
They got
no Bistan, but you still
Right.
are a 4 to 5 die, turret arc that can run away pretty easily.
I hate Dash. Not as
10
much as I
points.
hate
Ugh.
Torkoal much, though.
Yeah.
So
When did he go up to 10? I don't look at extended points very often.
Yeah, he's 10
Uh,
points with 22
yeah,
points of
just-
loadout. It's kind of hard to build around him.
That is hard. Never mind. I'm out.
It's
are
kind
you
of-
sure you don't want a 10-point large base ship?
Ugh.
I mean, he's more than Defender Vader, for Christ's sake. How about that?
For good reason.
It is pretty interesting that the winning person, Scooter in this case, he played Stumbo in round 1 of the cut, and it was a tie. So I'm not sure how they settled ties.
Probably
Winning
final
road
salvo.
Yeah. And he beat the only undefeated player in the top 16 off a tie roll, and then went on to win it. So that's kind of a real interesting scenario there.
And Scott's actually a really good player. I was on his team last year in season 2 for Nickel City. And I actually got to play Scott because we were on the same team. We would practice together quite a bit. And he's been playing Republic for longer, I think, than I've been playing CIS. So, not super surprising. A little surprising that he took down Stumbo with this list, but his Anakin, man, I'll tell you what, when that Anakin gets that shot lined up, so disgusting.
At I6, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I definitely like the addition of Chopper on Contrail, just being able to get out that jam once you get those evades off for Contrail there. It really helps set up those other follow-up shots from like Wolf and Jag or Anakin at Initiative 5, where you get to see a pretty good board state for where your opponent's at, and just go in and set up that jam. It's really good.
Yep, I like it quite a bit. The runner-up list was L. Bell. Who wants that Empire list there?
I guess I could take it. He had Lieutenant Sai with Palpatine and Baffle and the title and jamming theme. Iden with Elusive and Ion Cannon. Moff Gideon with Mag Pulse, false transponder codes, and targeting computer. And then Vader in the TIE Defender Elite config with Malice, Elusive, HLC, and cluster missiles.
That was a surprise when I saw the TIE Defender Elite title on Vader. And honestly, I think Vader is probably the best pilot for that title, mainly because his ability is all offense. And if you're able to line up that HLC shot, you can do a ton of damage with Vader. I mean, you could do the HLC shot and then spend your target lock if you still have it and take a second shot. It is just brutal. It can absolutely decimate stuff. Who needs juke? You just shoot 7 dice at somebody and they'll die with Vader. Easy.
I have a question. So, would anybody here ever actually run this Defender Vader with Fleet? I mean, kudos to him for doing this.
I think that ship needs the Delta 7B treatment.
Yeah.
Same here. It's just, I don't know. It's really hard for me. It's a really hard sell with Defender Elite. I mean, I don't know, JJ. Maybe we need to reach out to this guy and ask him, because I'm very befuddled on how. I don't know. Like,
so
how to make
there's a
that work.
caveat to this, though. The only way that this works is if you have a very good coordinating ship that helps you get those additional mods for Vader. In that case, it's going to be Lieutenant Sai that can easily provide Vader that focus, coordinate at his initiative, and then possibly set him up with a target lock later on if he needs it. And then Vader can either reposition to make sure he gets out of arcs or get an evade token, so that way he has that extra defensive reroll. And and then of course he has elusive already. Now the other part of the Defender Elite title as well is that it makes those K turns red. So if Vader does decide to do those K turns, it's going to recharge his elusive. He'll still have his force to mod his dice. But if he needs to get out of there to jam, those hard turns now, the hard 2 is a blue, the hard 1 is white. And that's a very, very nice maneuver to have on a defender to be able to evade somebody or arc dart somebody and then boost if you need to get out of the way or to get into a shot. So this Vader plays a lot differently, and a lot of people are programmed to counter the regular defenders that have that white 4K. It's very different when you have a defender that can do other maneuvers and boost. So it's a lot harder.
So, all right. So two things. Would this Defender Vader be worth any salt without Psi?
It'll be very difficult, I would say.
Yeah, it needs some sort of coordinating ship, most likely.
I mean, Reapers are great. I mean, you can still run this with like a Vizier with Palp and have that coordinate early at Initiative 2 and have that force suspend as well.
So I think we have a challenge for Duncan here. Duncan, you have a challenge to run this Vader.
What, make Defender Elite Vader? Oh my god, I'm gonna have to look at extended. Ugh.
Also kind of funny that he put cluster missiles on there. Then you can't use the Defender Elite ability to perform another bonus attack.
Yep.
So you would never use the bonus attack on cluster missiles because your normal primary attack is better.
Can't you decline to use it and then switch on to again? Yeah,
it's just... I don't know. I mean, you have 4 points, which is why you're bringing cluster missiles. But, like, maybe mag balls might have been a slightly better choice. Or something that would have done something that's not a worse version of your attack.
All right. Yeah. So Duncan has a list building challenge here. I want to see Duncan win an event with the Defender Elite Vader. Because, like, I don't know. Like, I feel Scott should have just conceded this, like, win to him. Just because, like, it would be amazing to be, like, a Defender Elite title one, I guess.
Does it have to be a Vader?
No, I'll tell you what. No, I'll concede, and you can have it on whoever you want.
All right, we're gonna start list building right now. Let's go.
You're looking at Vessery, right? Vessery is good for this too. Yeah.
Well, we know one's okay. So here's the other challenge, Duncan. You cannot use the one that's coming soon. We know one's coming.
Oh, Captain York.
Oh, the matter of Endor.
I have that one. That cannot be your Defender Elite ship. You can have him in the list with another Defender Elite. But yeah, like I don't know. Whatever. Like I agree. I've always stated that I would rather see that Defender Elite title make defenders more viable for standard play. If they got the same treatment that the 7Bs got. I don't know. Whew. Anyway. So McNasty, or I'm sorry, Knack Nasty, however you say that, and Doug Zug came in 3rd and 4th here, and so let's find their list. Which one would you like to take?
I'll grab that
there,
one,
JJ.
I have one quick thing to say though.
Sure,
and it's kind of funny. If you take Thread Tracers on Defender Elite, you have that target lock to perform a bonus attack. They are both like the same timing, so you can do that.
That's interesting, actually. Yeah.
So you can do something
Duly
like
noted.
Vessery with like FCS Thread Tracers and like HLC or something.
All right, JJ, which list would you'll
so
tackle?
I'll do Doug Zug. So he's also running an Empire list here. So we have the Battle of the Yavin Invader with Invader Vinder in the Alpha class Starwing here, running him with a ruthless fire control system, plasma torpedoes, APTs, Advanced Slam, and the OS1 Arsenal loadout. Moff Gideon with ruthless cloaking device, false transponder codes, and targeting computer, and then Psi once again with Palpatine, electronic baffle, and the ST-321 title to to round off that list. So this is kind of a more modern Hatchet Man style list here, with Vinder being that big hammer with those torps coming in pretty fast, being able to go in and deal some damage. Does have some really great help there with Moff Gideon and Vader being able to kind of be those hammers as well. Moff Gideon just enabling the token denial against those torpedoes as well. So it's a very good list. Sai is just there to provide locks and focuses as needed, and then that palp force just helps them be even more efficient for those lists, for that list.
Yeah, so this is the major vendor that I hate, right? This is the one that can clear, you do the disarm and just fire APTs every round, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the one straight reload constantly. Yeah,
and all Sai has to do, so even if you spend your target lock, Sai just has to move first and give you a target lock, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you're like,
Angia Palpatine.
Angia Palpatine. Ugh. I like that list though. I'll be honest with you. It's nice to see those Alpha Star classes on the table. I do, as much as I hate JJ for running that against me. I don't know. I don't remember what we were playing, but whatever we were doing that one night, you really just made my day.
we had a lot of those nights early on. First it was Neenum, and then it was Vinder, and then golly. And
thanks, buddy.
You're welcome, man.
All right. So the next list that we have is Knack Nasty, right?
McNasty.
I don't know. That's all I hear in my head is McNasty. So they are running a FO list. They have Whirlwind with marksmanship, elusive, cluster missiles, advanced optics, enhanced jamming suite, Malorus with magpulse, Gallic with proud tradition, ions, Scorch with shield upgrade, DT with shield upgrade, and Midnight with swarm tactics, elusive, concussion, missiles, and targeting synchronizer. Kind of a staple style list. Very, very disgusting, giving Whirlwind the I6, being able to take as many focuses as are in his arc, and then just fire missiles at you. I will say, I will tell you, I liked Whirlwind well before lots of people like Whirlwind, but I don't play FO very well. So I did came in, I think, 4th in one of the GSP things last year because of it. But
yeah,
Whirlwind
like
is what's that?
Oh, I was going to say this list is like half Nicholas Gods and half Crispies from Worlds.
Yes. Yep. It's a very it's and I think that's kind of how FO is built right now. Is you have plug and play pieces here, right? And I don't know. To me, this list, like I said, this list is a little bit more my style than Nicholas God's list is. Outside of the fact I really do like Ember, but this feels here closer to a play style that I would have. And I will say the Midnight Whirlwind combo is pretty dirty sometimes. So.
Yeah, that synchronized console, the targeting synchronizer rather, just being able to enable those missiles there pretty much ensures that Whirlwind always has a 3-die attack, as long as they have charges with cluster missiles, and that also opens up stuff for like Commander Mandalore as well, or any other ship that could potentially have like missiles on their list there, to really increase the offensive output there. I would have liked to see maybe Magpulse on Midnight instead of concussion missiles, but then you have that at 1 extra point. But still, it's a really nice list. I always like targeting sync on Midnight. It's a really great choice. Just make sure you don't spend that lock on Midnight so you can deny their defensive modifications.
All right. So now we're going to move into top 8. Duncan, why don't you take Ketchup Man? And my daughter officially told me Ketchup Man was the best name in X-Wing, and everybody should adopt that name because she loves ketchup. Ketchup's okay, but she loves ketchup. So.
All right, so here we got another Empire list. We see Battle of Yavin, Darth Vader, pretty commonly used there. We got Juno with kind of an interesting setup here. We got marksmanship, pattern analyzer, and fire control. Tomax Bren in the TIE bomber with barrage rockets and bomblet generator, and Captain Kagi with fire control, Emperor Palpatine, shield upgrade, and ST-321, the title.
So why take Kagi over Sai? Is there a reason
I have to
behind
remember
that?
what Kagi does.
Kagi pulls target locks away, so you can choose
Right.
one or more friendly ships and then pull all the locks onto yourself. So it's really good.
Like
Again,
most people are going to go for that
like an
shuttle
alpha.
anyway, but I guess I don't know if you have 2 I5s and I6, like you're playing against opposing Vaders or whatnot. You just or like Midnights. Oh, that would be real bad for Midnight. Just right, like Midnight targets Battle of Yavin Vader, and you just roll up with Kagi and take all those target locks away.
Yeah, because your friendly ships just have to be 0 to 3 of Kagi, so Kagi
Yeah.
doesn't even really have to be in that fight. He can be way back there and still start taking all the locks.
Yeah, so maybe it was like kind of
It's a solid
like
meta
meta
call, I guess.
there. Yeah, I mean it's 6 points though. A lot of
You get
loadout.
22 points of loadout.
Yeah, that's a lot of loadout. That's why it's Palp and shield upgrade there.
Yeah, so it turns into 11 health, a Palpatine carrier.
Mhm.
You're not really putting too much else on it.
You just keep them all the way in the back line.
And everything's they still use the ban list, so you can't put on something like Sloan. So
Yeah, the
Thank
Tomax
God.
Bren is kind of a weird build.
efficiency, right? I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
rockets and
Exactly.
bomblets. And he's what, an I5, right? So
I'm surprised he didn't do elusive.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, I mean maybe they just didn't enter it in there. He probably had elusive, right?
No, he's got 10 loadout, so
Oh no, you're right. Yeah,
I know bomblet generators 2 and barrages.
Yep.
A lot.
barrage say. So I mean, you get a consistent 3-die gun if you focus, and you have bomblets. Banky
I think
bomblets.
I think it's a priority choice here, right? Like, are you going to shoot Tomax, or are you going to shoot Juno, or are you going to shoot Vader? Like, I think all of them give you kind of a bad option, especially if you're pulling target locks. I guess I never thought about that. If you pull the target locks and you take away people's ability to shoot missiles and weird little other abilities like with Vaders and other things like that. I don't know. It actually feels pretty defensive. Though I agree, I would put elusive on Tomax before bomblet generator. But
Yeah, and I think that this list really depends on range control as well, right? Because if you can make sure you can keep Kagi away from the fight, just out of it, so that way you can pull the locks from the ships that are ahead of you, and that way you're out of the range from the other ships that are attempting to take them on. I think that's the maximum effectiveness there for Kagi there, but yeah, still it's very, very good. I mean, just having those high initiative ships in Juno and Tomix and Vader to go in, just getting that little defensive boost by not having to worry about those missiles coming back is really good for Kagi. So
yeah, I think if they ever re-release those lambdas, I don't know. That man.
hopefully with a pivot wing or something.
Well, that is true. So, all right. So now we move on to the next list. Who should we do next? Let's see here. Number 8 is Snaggletooth. There you go. Let's give a resistance list to our man Alex here.
Yep. So he has a resistance list. He has a Poe Falcon with heroic, trick shot, Chewbacca, Ray engine upgrade in the title. He has 9 Nub with heroic R6D8, which is like the Super Predator droid, and HLC. He's got Elo with heroic M9G8, HLC, and then Finn with elusive, heroic, and perceptive co-pilot. I mean, they're all pretty solid ships. I love M9G8. I love Falcon Poe. I'm still iffy on trick shot with him, but that's just me. But I mean, it's a solid. And if you manage to line up those HLC shots, it can do a lot more damage. And I'm sure in extended, you got a lot more bigger ships, right? You have Lambdas, you have the Lancer, the Upsilon that no one brought. So it's much easier to do HLC shots, I would assume. So, and it's only 4 points for some reason. So, seems like just a solid list. And Falcon Poe does really dirty Falcon Poe things.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Falcon Poe. All right, JJ. Let's take the Rebel list number 12. Pala Radio.
So we got a 4-ship list here for the Rebels here. We got the Battle of Yavin Garvin Drace with benthic 2 tubes with Jyn Erso, Perceptive Co-Pilot, Contraband, and the Pivot Wing. Harrison Dula here with Predator, Elusive, Proton Rockets, and Munitions Failsafe. I believe that's the A-Wing version of Hera. And then Luke Skywalker with Brilliant, Elusive, Proton Rockets, R4, Munitions Failsafe, and the Server Motor as foils. Benthic tubes just being able to help enable bypassing those focus tokens over to Hera, and then having the ability to convert them to evades if needed with Jyn Erso. Garvin Drace also being able to do the same thing with the focus passing after Garvin spends it, and being able to pass it. And then on top of all that, Hera just being able to take a target lock just out of all that. If Hera doesn't spend her target lock, that could potentially enable Garvin to shoot off those advanced proton torpedoes if he's in range, and yeah, there's just so much token passing here. Quintessential Rebels just being able to pass all those tokens around and just really being effective.
So is a Brilliant Evasion the one where you spend a force to convert eyeballs? Is that what it is?
Correct. Yes.
So I'm very confused why you run that on Luke. You get 2 green dice. Like, what's the probability that you're going to roll 2 eyeballs?
It's very low.
It's 2 points.
Okay, but what else? What else?
Increases in probability when you have elusive, I guess. I mean, that's the same thing with Vader, right? But
also you're passing around evade tokens too, right? Like you don't necessarily need it.
I mean, is it just a call where you like that's what you're putting on there, or I mean, because you could put what else? You could put height and perception 3.
It's 3. Yeah.
Well, you can drop the munitions
fail safe. Yeah.
I don't know. Like to me, it just feels. To me, it feels like there's other things you could run. And maybe it worked for them. I don't know for sure, but I don't know. The last one that we have is from Air Knight, and it is a Kraken Saw Dutch Lando list, which I think we talked about Lando a month and a half ago, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of fell in love with Lando a little bit. Lando with Perceptive Co-Pilot, Nia Nub, Bistan, Millennium Falcon, Dutch with Belly Rub and Proton Torpedoes, Saw with Elusive, Perceptive Co-Pilot, Contraband, Jyn, and Pivot Wing, and Kraken with Elusive and Plasmas. So pretty solid Rebel list there. Nothing super special that we haven't really seen before.
A lot of actions going around between Kraken and Lando, so everyone gets all their double mods or whatever.
Yeah. Even though it's only a 4-ship list, kind of still feels pretty good. And does Jyn work? So if Lando takes with Perceptive Co-Pilot 2 focuses, does Jyn just say, hey, one of those can be an evade if you want?
Yep. Exactly.
And then you get the rerolls off the title.
Yep. Yeah. So seems pretty good. Cause, I mean, what's the probability you would take 2 focuses? You wouldn't just take the evade, right? Like, I don't know. To me, it feels like you would always get.
Well, you have Bistan, so if you wanted to keep it, but also Lando just gets 2 actions if he does a blue maneuver, so he can himself just do the double focus evade if he wanted to.
If he's doing that many blues, I'm wondering why he didn't go with Baze Malbus, right? Because you can get 3 tokens that way, one of which can be an evade.
Oh, so good. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And then add in an engine upgrade if you need to.
Yeah, true.
Oh, even dirtier. Damn it, Duncan. Stop it, Duncan. Stop making,
like building lists.
I mean, with Baze, though, you have to be closer to people to get the 2 tokens.
Yeah.
So maybe if he's just kind of orbiting around and trying not to get shot at.
But it works on the bumps, too. So, I mean, like,
it works on the bump focus.
Exactly, yeah. So if you get bumped, you can still use it, and that gives Lando at least an out. So.
But if you get bumped, you don't get Lando's ability.
Right. But at least having that focus evade naturally, right, even with a bump, is still pretty good with Lando. It's nice.
How many tokens do you get with Blaze? Up to 2 or up to 3?
Up to 2 extra, so you can get 3 total. and
so
you can
good.
make any number of them focuses or evades, right? With Jin. So you could do 3 evades if you wanted. I think that's how
Oh
that
my
works.
god.
Yeah.
All right, I need to get my Lando back out before points change. I need to put I think I'm going to put this list on the table because I have one of each of these ships. So, all right. Well, I think that's it for the Midwest Open. From what I heard, it was a pretty good event. Unfortunately, it was a little far for me to travel. I really couldn't convince the wife with everything going on to be like, hey, why don't you guys go hang out in St. Louis while I go play X-Wing for 2 days? So the wife was not super excited by that proposition. Maybe during the summer when the kids are off of school, we'll see. Maybe I'll get a little bit more lucky. It would be nice to go to like the Lone Star Open down in Texas. Stuff like that. Like I've never been to that one, and I hear really good things about that event. So cool. So that was kind of the two things we had talked about covering. The Pride of Mandalore pack. I think we're gonna skip that tonight since we are almost an hour and a half in, and I don't want to keep everybody up till 11:30 and stuff like that. So, and the Pride of Mandalore, I don't know if that's even dropped yet. I have not seen that kit locally. So I'm not super worried about it. That can be on the agenda for next week unless we get points. If we get points, that's what we'll be doing next week.
Let's pray.
What's that?
Yeah, right.
I said let's pray for points.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. And though, all right, Duncan, I'm going to be a little selfish and ask that we don't get points until the 26th of May, because if we have that tournament on the 28th of May, that gives 1 day for testing and points building. And I'm telling you right now, if that's the case, like, I don't do super well, but we have a local, Sean, who does, like, that guy is the wizard at building BS rebel lists, like just bullshit. Like I hate playing against it because he has all these weird interactions, and then you have to stop the timer. Like, you're be like, all right, I don't believe you. We got to go through all these things, and anyway, he is the master at that. But I would love, like, that's what I wanted for Worlds, and like I don't know how anybody else feels about that, but to me, drop some points like a week before Worlds or less than a week before Worlds. Let's just shake it up. Like, I know it kind of kills a little bit of the competitive nature of some of it, but at the exact same time, to me, that's some of the funnest X-Wing is when the new points drop. I have a lot of fun playing dumb, stupid stuff that I think is going to be good, and then just get my ass handed to me. So that happens a lot, actually. And I don't even live by Duncan, so. All right. Well, thank you so much, Duncan, for joining us tonight. Did you have anything else you wanted to plug? Anybody you wanted to say? Anything you wanted to say before we wrap up for the night?
No, just Richmond Open was great. Chuck running it was great. And Chris helping out TO and everything like that. Hopefully we can get more people next year.
Yeah. And you know, it'd be nice if somebody TO'd for him so he could actually play one of these times. Because that guy loves
Well, now that
TO.
I've won, I can actually TO so I can get that 000 judge promo that I need. I don't even have to judge events, so.
I know one of our locals, we're looking at holding an event, and one of the locals like, oh, I'll volunteer. And I was like, why? And he's like, well, there's a 000 card in there. So
that's pretty cool looking.
Yeah. I was like, you don't even run Scum. What do you want it for? He's like, just saying.
It can be an Empire if you run Vader.
You just run Vader.
Just run Vader.
Corey doesn't run Empire or Scum. So Corey runs Resistance and Republic.
I feel the completion is part of that, though, is like needing to get all the alt arts, but it's impossible now.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you all for joining us. I know this was a Tuesday cast. We delayed the show to ensure JJ and Duncan could come on. I heard there was some bribery going on that JJ gave Duncan the win if he joined the show, so Duncan could have his Worlds invite right away.
I'm going to get banned by AMG.
Don't worry, buddy. AMG does not watch our show. If it did, it would have already yelled at us. I mean, how many times have I stated AMG watches the show and they've never reached out to me? So we'll see. If you know somebody that wants to get AMG on the show, we'll happily talk with AMG on the show. But either which way, thank you so much, Duncan, for joining us tonight, and we look forward to some of the other crazy. Now you get to run fun lists. Like, you don't have to run anything serious.
I might try my old goal of trying to get 7 invites with 7 different factions. So
Well, so long as one of them's a defender elite, then you're fine.
Well, I already did Imperial, so we'll loop all the way around, and that'll be number 8. How about that?
There you go.
All right, that
Sounds
sounds
good.
Man, that
I
sounds
was
good.
building a list in Yasby with that, so I think I had one. It was the defender next to Moff Gideon, Iden, and Morna Key, so I could just ruthless Morna Key with the elite title. I was like, that's the best I can do. It's kind of weird.
That sounds pretty good, though. I like that.
We'll see.
It doesn't sound good, but it sounds
doesn't
fun.
sound good at all. Just burn down your own decimator, and you strain it with Moff Gideon.
That's
It's not
great.
the worst thing.
I will say Moff Gideon and Decimators do go well together. We had a local that was running that for a little while. And they were constantly just giving the Decimators the strain.
Feels good.
It does. And every time you just be like, oh, it was just a sad day.
Mhm.
Oinkin, you can shoot your range 0, right? And it's like even better then. So
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, thank you all for joining us on our journey through the points. I don't know what next week's gonna hold. We honestly don't know, just based on that. If you have a store champ or anything that has gone or that has happened, if you want to either email us at planningfacesyndicate@gmail.com, or you can hop up into our Discord and let us know. We will happily cover a store champ. At least top 4. Like I like store champ season personally. I've never lived in X-Wing store champ world because I played Destiny before this. And that was kind of that's more or less the crowd I ran with until they killed that amazing game, sadly enough. And now I play X-Wing. But if you have a store championship and you want us to cover it and I miss it somehow, just like I said, just send us an email or hop in our Discord and be like, hey, here's the link. Here's the info. And we will cover as many store champ numbers as we can throughout the season. Because to me, that's the best part about a lot of this, especially once new points drop. There's going to be a whole new meta and everything with that. We are not going to do a Universe Extended tonight because JJ did not watch Visions.
I did. Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yeah, I'm on the last episode, but yeah, I've seen it.
Well, do we do a Universe Extended tonight? then?
Not tonight. No, I gotta be up early. But yeah.
All right, you're killing me. So next Sunday, we are going to do a Universe Extended episode after we do our normal podcast to cover the Visions and our opinions on it, because I watched it. I thought it was amazing. And I'm super excited to talk about it. Like, I think it's some of the best Star Wars content, minus Andor, because I won't try to usurp people's love of Andor for it. So with that being said, thank you. Have a good night, and we will see you on the morrow.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right.